Hello, my name is Alex Latham, and I'm a media arts student here at Arlington High School and a member of the Film Appreciation Society. I am joined today with Memphis-based author Vincent Astor. His book, Memphis Movie Theatres, chronicles how films were exhibited in Memphis from their inception to 2013. We're excited to speak with Mr. Astor about his life, work, and the movies. Thank you very much for joining us today, Vincent.
You're welcome.
Our first question, Mr. Astor, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and so our viewers can get to know you?
I'm a native Memphian. I was born in 1953. I'm a genuine boomer. And I came in sort of at the end of this golden era of film, of going to the movies. I saw Lady at the Tramp at the Malco, which is now the Orpheum. I saw Mary Poppins at the Plaza. I saw, I don't remember one that I saw, but I saw Man for All Seasons and Anne of the Thousand Days at the Memphian when Malco happened. So I've just been around the corner a while. And in 1969, I was at the Malco watching True Grit, the one with John Wayne and Kim Darby. And I looked up and I saw the most beautiful room I had ever seen in my life and fell in love with the Orpheum building. And before that, my father had taken me down the aisle and there was this draped box in the orchestra pit and he said, "That's a great big organ." And the rest is history.
Why are seeing movies like in the theater such an American experience? Like what makes it so important?
It's the same thing, and we were talking about that. I was talking about that to somebody yesterday. There will always be movie theaters because the marquee on TheaterWorks in Overton Square reads, "Live theater, the first 3D entertainment." So it's always something, people will always like to see it in company with another group of people. And it's just a different experience, although people aren't as polite as they used to be. I always forget my squirt gun for the person with the cell phone 3 rows down.
What led you to write your book, Memphis Movie Theatres?
I did one of the preservation series at Memphis Heritage, which is always held in March, and I did it on movie theaters because I had a lot of expertise and knowledge about that. So I did there were 2 about the movie palaces and the Nickelodeons. There was one about Film Row. There was we even got on the phone with the granddaughter of a man named Lloyd T. Binford, who was a notorious censor. In fact, he's the only censor in the nation who became an adjective. People at the studios would think of, well, is this one going to be Binfordized or not? And sections were sometimes cut out, things were changed. He was in a train robbery once. He wouldn't allow a film with a train robbery to be shown in Memphis. But the Lightman family owned 2 theaters in West Memphis. So they never were actually not in Memphis. And they coined money on people going to West Memphis to see those films. And it's still, the amenities have changed, but there's still different kinds of amenities. And the first time I ever saw the Powerhouse, the parking lot was full.
What was your job at the Orpheum?
I've had many jobs. I was the building engineer, I was curator, I'm still one of the historians, and the organist, and the house manager. Was house manager and building manager for a while. I ran the boiler and changed light bulbs.
What path led you to be an organist for the Orpheum?
When I was already much more interested in the organ than the piano, and I was in high school at the time, 69, and they had revived the organ on Sundays for 2 shows on Sundays. A man named Bill Oberg drove down from Milan, Tennessee, and he had done a lot of work on the organ, and it sounded wonderful. And then I was hooked. And after Bill left, during the period of karate, kung fu, and blaxploitation pictures, they were using the organ less and less often at the Malco. So he went down to the Ellis Auditorium to work on that big organ. And I became the house organist and was there until 1987.
Can you give our viewers a little bit of background on the Orpheum and how it ended up where it is today?
What, as far as entertainment?
Yes, sir.
The first building on that corner was the Grand Opera House, and it became the Orpheum Theater in 1907, which was vaudeville, it was all live theater. And in the very beginning, there were movies and then there were photoplays, which were the ones that told a story. And they were on the vaudeville bill, and at first, the last act as a chaser. But people didn't leave, they stayed, so they became part of the vaudeville bill. When the theater was replaced in 1928, it still had that format, but movies took over from live theater because they were cheaper and easier, didn't take so many personnel. So there were still stage events at the theater when it became the Malco in 1940 of various kinds, but they were rare. It was mostly movies. But in 1972, Hair toured Memphis, a live show, and they opened the Orpheum stage for that. And people started thinking, well, people might come down to Main and Beale to see a show. And it grew from there. There was a time when the Jehovah's Witnesses rented the Malco for a big gathering of theirs. And Malco was thinking about getting out of downtown. The Ridgeway 4 was built in the 70s with room for the home offices of Malco, although not half as much storage as that vast building. But Memphis Development Foundation were wanting to open a bar and restaurant called Number 1 Beale in some renovated warehouses 2 blocks away. And so they bought the Orpheum so it wouldn't become a house of worship and interfere with that. And the Orpheum Theater was the first entity to really take off on Beale Street. The rest of Beale Street was just closed and shuttered, but the Orpheum began to thrive. And then it went to all sorts of things, movies, concerts, mostly Broadway. It's mostly known for the Broadway shows that tour through there.
What are some of your favorite memories going to the movies here in Memphis?
I remember walking into the Plaza Theater and wondering how much trouble it had been to put supercalifragilisticexpialidocious on the reader board, which was inside over the front door. There are a lot of pictures of, films like Lollapalooza and Razzmatazz got axed because the theaters didn't have enough letters to spell them. I remember True Grit and looking around at the theater. I remember opening night in 1984. That's the wonderful thing about an organ lift. Everyone shares the stage no matter what the act is, and you share it with the orchestra. But the organist has his own stage. You hit a button, and that's a stage that belongs to the organist alone. But we drove around back, my grandfather knew a road that could get behind the Skyview Drive-In, and it was so risque. They were playing Cleopatra which was an adult picture before adult had any X's to do with it. And we drove around back there and saw way in the distance Elizabeth Taylor reclining out as Cleopatra. I'll never forget that either.
Thank you so much, Mr. Astor. I'd like to thank my guest, Vincent Astor, author of the Memphis Movie Theatres. Be sure to pick up his book, which is available at Amazon. For more content from TigerLife Media Program here at Arlington High School, check out our YouTube page, AHS TigerLife. I'm Alex Latham. Have a great day.